Hello, everybody. I am Vanati, and I'm seeing you all again on Zoho Live. I'm so happy this is happening once again. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? Sales. You know, in Zoho Live, we've spoken about a variety of things like marketing, product management, evangelism, and entrepreneurship, and so many such things. But this is the first time we are talking about sales. And, mainly we wanted to do that because 2021 is an year of expectation for everybody all over the world, but mainly for the economy, which means for business owners and particularly salespeople. So, to talk about sales, I have Nirmal Kumar Manoharan with me here. He's the regional director of sales for Manage Engine. He heads the brand in Latin America and the Africa regions with 2 dozen of years of experience in sales, you guys, in the brand Manage Engine alone. And he's been doing channel management in the consumer durable industry before he was with Manage Engine. And currently, he's taking care of driving business in the Middle East and North Africa and in the LATAM region with a blend of channel program and marketing activities. And when I bring a person of such status and experience here on this platform, it wouldn't do justice if I just introduced him this way formally. So I was able to reach out to one of his teammates and I asked the person to share a few words of how his experience was working with Nirmal. And here's what he says. I'm going to read that out for you, okay? He says that we meet many salespeople every day, but only some leave a mark. And one of them is Nirmal. I have the privilege of working with Nirmal for over 6 years now. Nirmal's unique style of managing people is unlike what I've ever seen before. And one of the beautiful quality is he loves to empower people to get the job done. One quality that I again love the most is he ensures that people will walk out of a meeting, be it any tense meeting, with a broad smile. I'd like to call him a big mind who always sees the bigger picture that we all overlook sometimes. As a result, he has led his team, us, to discover deeper insights and newer ideas in sales. I have always admired him for his strong business acumen, and I'm truly lucky to be in his team, says Subin George, who is a sales manager with the LATAM region who works for Manage Engine. It is such a pleasure to have you here, Nirmal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the introduction, Vanati, and
And
hi all.
Nirmal, yeah. And would you, for the sake of our audience, would you like to talk a bit about Manage Engine before we jump into the session?
Oh yeah, so briefly, so Manage Engine um, is a software product company. So we have products in the IT management and security space. So what I mean by IT management and security is like we have products in areas such as help desk, network monitoring, applications monitoring, desktop management, mobile device management, patch management, etc. So these tools are typically used by the IT managers to manage the IT infrastructure. And typically, as far as the Middle East and Africa region is concerned, we work extensively to partners, which is what you explained. So that's in brief about Manage Engine.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nirmal. And Nirmal, I know we want to talk a lot about 2021, the sales and tactics, and what is going to be the plan for this year and all of those things. But before that, I want to take a moment and look back and review 2021. So, can you share us a bit about, in your experience in ME in 2020, how was it when you first learned that the world was going to go to a halt? And what was your immediate reactions to this? What were some of the new decisions that were to be taken? And how did you face this overall pandemic in Manage Engine?
All right. So when 2020 started, actually we had a pretty good first quarter. In fact, till about I would say even first week of April, things were doing fantastic. But then when we went to mid-April, I think that is when the lockdown started in all the countries. Things started really slowing down, and we could see that it was not going to be a usual year. And I mean that went on till about August, and then from September onwards, things started looking a bit better. So what we did in April, when we found that things were not going good, the first thing we did was to call all our salespeople as well as the partners, telling them that don't worry about say short-term targets because it is not going to be easy to achieve and it's not under your control. So we need to try and do the best in terms of engaging with customers, supporting them well because they're also undergoing the same kind of pains that we all are undergoing, and try to engage with them as much as possible, and then try to see what we can do. And that is exactly what they did. I mean, we also empowered the partners with some of the tools which we use for remote working, and they were motivated because otherwise it was a pretty depressing scenario out there. Uh, as I said, towards the end of the year, things were looking much better, and then we actually had a growth by the end of the year, which is fantastic given the difficult situation we were in. And that's partly because we also had some products in the security area, so which was selling like hotcakes because enterprises had to necessarily move all their work to homes of the people, and that meant that we had a lot of opportunities there. And it also helped that we had a strong partner network, so they could assist the customers much better than we could have done sitting remote. So in all, I think we ended much stronger than we started the year. So though in terms of revenue, it was not as much as we expected.
Beautiful. I mean, the minute you say we were still able to see a growth, that in itself is a woo-hoo kind of situation.
Yeah.
And it is really commendable that you called all your sales folks and your partners together to say that it's okay to not obsess on the short-term goals. Let's see what's the long haul ahead. And eventually, I would say probably that's what has helped you. And there was a good in the bad in the way that you say how your safe security management products were able to kick off pretty good. So that's great, and I'm happy that ManageEngine was able to be in a situation to see a growth even amidst such a great distress and crisis. That's lovely. And you also mentioned about remote work, Nirmal, which was what I was going to talk about next. How was it like? Like, how was the whole transition of your entire sales team or sales department as a whole to remote work? Because I've spoken to a lot of marketing folks and the development folks, and I've asked them about how was remote work like, and there has been a mixture of responses. But what it is really like for the sales team? What were some of the few challenges you faced there, and was there any sort of a learning? Can you share some of that with us?
Oh yeah, sure. As far as ManageEngine was concerned, it was a seamless shift to remote work, primarily because we always have had a geographically distributed teams. Because of that, we always had to work with some people having in remote. And again, most of us were traveling at least once a month. So which meant that we were always used to working from remote. Um, but this is as far as sales is concerned. But of course, when it comes to the development, support, etc., of course, there were some challenges, and that is where I think our company started the business continuity plan much ahead of the lockdown. So we started by end of February. So wherein we had to kind of upgrade the servers so that the remote work was able to be done more efficiently, and the network infrastructure, the VPN setup, and also any issue with the laptops, etc., we fixed so that when people had to work from home, it was much easier. So I would say we were well prepared, well ahead of the lockdown. So we beat the lockdown blues. So it was not an issue in terms of infrastructure. But what was difficult was actually working from home. So working from remote and working from home are not the same. I mean, if you know what I mean. So, for example, if I work from a hotel, or maybe I work from partner's place, or even if I work from a airport lounge, that's much different from working from home because we don't have any distractions. So that's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
So in fact, my respect for the women folk. I mean, I know a lot of women folk work from home. They also take care of family. So I actually grew when I actually experienced the difficulty of doing balancing both. So it was a learning experience for me from that point of view. The biggest challenge for us sometimes was, let us say that we had a problem with the electronic devices, the laptop or something. We couldn't fix that. And internet, if it goes, were not possible to fix because, because of lockdown, people were not able to move around. So that was a problem. And again, let's say that I had to buy a furniture for my maybe desktop. That was not possible. These are the issues, I would say. And again, some of them had to work in the shifts, maybe in the late nights, etc. That definitely was a problem for the people in their house. I mean, these are issues which I would say we faced. Of course, we also had a lot of funny incidences, like where the kids would accidentally come into the meetings, and other interesting things would be like maybe a dog would come in, a cat would come in, maybe birds would come in. And in fact, one of the meetings, someone was working from a terrace, and then we could see a monkey standing right behind the person. So it was interesting, funny, but challenging. It's all a whole package, I would say. But we came out, I would say, I think we have managed it well so far, I guess.
Beautiful. And I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Nirmal, because working in the midst of a pandemic when you're quarantined inside your house is totally different from what remote work is. A lot of the
Yeah, and
people.
I missed adding one more point. Okay, of course,
Yeah.
we are from Zoho family, so obviously we have all the tools in the world to to work remote. So that made it easy.
Yes.
Another point I didn't miss. I
Yeah,
missed.
yeah, yeah. And part of the reason why you were able to plan things ahead, I think you mentioned something like in February itself, you were able to have the system in place, update the server, and all of those
Correct.
things in anticipation for what could come. So these would not have happened if we had just been, squabbling for the right tools at that moment. Only because we had all the tools hand, we were able
Correct.
to face the transition when the trivial things like hardware equipments like speaker and camera and all of those had to be an issue, if at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is certainly the case. And many people have who hesitated to work from home when they were in quarantine would probably opt to work from home now forever. So that's how easy it has become now with things opening up a little bit
Yeah.
everywhere
True.
around the world.
True.
Yes. And you also mentioned about, Manage Engine sales team is used to working remotely when they would travel to a partner's place or an event or something like that. And
Yeah.
I personally also know that Manage Engine participates in a lot of events.
Oh yeah.
And events are very important because that's where you meet a lot of people, you build a relationship, a trust is formed, and then which somewhere down the lane ends up becoming a sale. But this would completely not have happened during the pandemic, and
True.
or at least it had to happen in a compromised way with the remote work in place. So how did you go about that? How did you face the situation of bringing in new businesses which you would otherwise have if you had been a part of all these face-to-face events?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think it's pretty good question. So the events is one of the most important aspects that we missed in because of the pandemic. Because in 2019, for example, we would have probably done about 50 events around. I mean, in the entire Middle East and Africa region. So that meant that we could meet so many customers, partners face to face, and there was a lot of exchange of ideas, and we understood their issues better. I think all those, I mean, were compromised. I won't say that these things didn't happen because of the lockdown. I mean, lockdown as well as the lack of events, but then it didn't happen that much. So we are just waiting for things to improve, and then we will start doing events. But I mean, still, we managed to squeeze in a couple of important events that we do in the region. One is the Dubai User Conference, which we usually have it in the month of February. So last year we could squeeze that in just before the lockdown. So that was pretty nice. A lot of participants, and then we also were part of GITEX, which happened last year in December. And I hope that this year we are going to see a lot of activities, because I saw yesterday that there was a event on the food industry, and I saw that there are a lot of people in that. I mean, that gives sort of hope that probably things will change pretty soon. But then what happened was, see, though we couldn't do a lot of events, I felt the impact on revenue because of not doing events was not significant. primarily because we have had a strong brand. I mean, it is something that we have spent quite a bit of time and effort to build. And because of that, I think when people wanted to look for an IT management or security product, they would have considered Manage Engine, because that kind of reflected in the number of inquiries that we received. And the second thing is, so we have a lot of products. So we have about dozens of products, and we also have probably more than 80% of the enterprise customers are using our products. So that meant that there was a lot of reason for us to interact with them, and they also had a lot of reasons to come to us for some kind of maybe some products or at least some inquiries. So I would say some amount of interaction was happening. I mean, I want to some, in fact, a lot of interactions were happening, but we still miss the face-to-face interactions. So which we hope will happen pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think what you're saying is, even though the businesses that could have come through with events and meeting people face to face, the solid brand that Manage Engine has been able to build for over all these years, plus
Correct.
the number of products that you had, paved way for you to maybe upsell to the existing customers that were using your products. And that's
Yeah.
actually a very good thing. I mean, it might sound like an easy answer, but it is definitely not easy to build a brand that is this solid. And it is very true when you say that you made space for other products through an existing product, because this should resonate with a lot of new startups that are coming up, which are entirely focused on just one thing, one product or one service. So the more you have to offer to the customer, the more way you find anyway, even in the midst of a global pandemic,
Yeah.
if that may be the case.
Correct.
Beautiful, Nirmal. Yeah. And I also want to talk about, I feel like things are opening up a little bit. I mean, a lot of us have started to go to the office ourselves. And do you see a change in the mindset of the buyers, though? Like, are they still being very conservative, still being very wary of the situation? Or would you say things have already fallen back to normalcy in terms of a buyer? So, with this being in mind, what would your specific advice be to salespeople who are trying to build a pipeline, especially in terms of convincing a customer to make a purchase decision?
Okay. So I mean, I think the sentiments have improved drastically over the past 6 months, because I know how things were in the maybe early stages of the lockdown. So April, May, people were really frozen. They were trying to just see how best they could survive running the business. But I think compared to that, I think now things are much better. I mean, that reflected in our revenue, managing revenue in the past maybe 5-6 months. However, I don't think it is back to normalcy. I think it will take some more time. I think vaccination should happen, and then people will have to start moving around a bit, because I think several countries are currently locked because of the lack of vaccination yet. I think once that happens, people will have more confidence, and then probably things will come back to normalcy. But whether we are in a normal or abnormal situation, so one of the things which I always notice is that people look for value proposition when they buy. I mean, what I mean by value proposition is a good product or a service at a reasonable price, and this is the fundamental of any. I mean, I would say, a good sale, right? So that hasn't changed, and that will not change. Okay, so which means if you are a business owner that is either having a product or a service, try not to compromise on the like your SLAs or the quality in the short term. Usually people cut down on the number of employees to do that. I mean, I would recommend, if it is possible, not to do that, because that is going to have a longer term impact on your business. So instead of that, try to kind of manage, and then probably things will improve pretty soon. And for the salespeople, see, it is definitely a tough time to build a pipeline. The leads will probably have come down, and I mean, not everyone is fortunate as managed engineers in terms of the width of the product, etc. But then with what you have, I think you need to try to maximize. You have to really work hard. You have to go back to the frozen opportunities, go back to the old leads, etc. These are things you can try to do. And the other most important thing is that you have to try and ensure that the existing customers don't walk away. That's because you know that it's easy to retain customers than to get new ones, and particularly in this kind of market situation. And that would require that the sales team need to be more empowered, because a more empowered team can convince customers compared to a team which is less empowered. And lastly, to business owners, I mean, I would say that it is not just the salespeople who have to be blamed in case we don't have good revenue, because it's the overall market situation. I mean, no one can help. So let us not blame just the salespeople.
Beautiful. And Nirmal, can you elaborate a bit about when you said the purchase decision? I mean, buyers are not being that open. Yes, things have gotten better, but you do see some sort of a hesitation in buyers. But the revenue still keeps going strong, is what you say. What makes you say that there is still a hesitation in the buyers? Like, what sort of elements make you seem that be the picture?
Okay, so when I say that, I would say most of the big ticket decisions are not being made fast. And then the cycle is delayed. So I think these are all indications that, people are taking more time to decide. So what would take probably 3 months for a decision, now I think it is taking maybe 6 months, 9 months, or even sometimes more. And people are also trying to kind of buy only what they need today. So in the past, what they would say, okay, I want to buy for the next 1 year so that I don't have to go back and get budget each and every time. But now they say, okay, I'll buy only what I need today. And if I need more, let us say, licenses, maybe 1 month on the line, I can always talk and buy. So that is what I mean, that people are a bit hesitant about spending.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Beautiful. And you also talked about how existing businesses, which is recurring revenue, has been going solid for Manage Engine, and it should be the case also for any other business. That brings me to my next question as to, we all know that at this point, at least in this century, sales is not just about the sales team. It is not a bunch of agents just cold calling people asking, do you want this or do you want that? I mean, all of the faction inside a company is coming together to contribute to sales. And this awareness has been increased now much more than ever, right from marketing to support to product management to everybody. They play a role in a sale. So what, in your opinion, could help all these factions inside a company bring together so that the one common notion is sales?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll just give you an example about 100 years back. So where Ford, when they wanted to come out with their T series of cars, Henry Ford famously was quoted as saying, any customer can have a car of any color as long as it is black. I mean, implying that black is the only option. There is no other option. I mean, it might sound arrogant. So, but the reason why Ford was planning to give only black colored car was they wanted to keep the cost low. And the easiest way to keep cost low was to offer only one color, because their strategy was to take the cars to the masses. And that meant that they need to keep the prices low, and then accordingly they have to keep the cost low as well. But it also kind of implies that at that point of time, 100 years back, it was a seller's market. So what was available was what the people had to buy. In today's situation, it is definitely not possible. I mean, just consider a very highly capital intensive industry like aviation. So even there is so much of competition. I mean, for example, if I have to go from India to the US, I have probably a dozen options, right? So that's competition. I mean, you take any industry, there is no industry where there is a seller's market. So it is a buyer's market. So we need to ensure that we are always prepared to improve our product or service, whatever we offer, we need to continuously improve. So that itself is, I would say, essential, and that. I mean, I would say it's also part of sales in that case, right? So what we do in Manage Engine is, so we continuously improve our products in terms of adding new features regularly, and we also keep adding new products. So as and when we find a new use case, and if we find the existing products are not going to meet that, we also come up with new products. So this is a very ongoing process, and that involves obviously our product management, our development, and support. I mean, because support is a key aspect as far as interaction with the customers are concerned. So customer support in Manage Engine is not the role of only the support people. It's also a role where the product management team comes on board to understand what is happening. And it's also the development team also coming to picture to understand what kind of issues are being faced. So it's a whole package when it comes to, I mean, how they are all aligned to sales. And to top this all, I mean, we have the marketing team, which is there to communicate the value proposition, the ever increasing value proposition of Manage Engine to the market. So, and of course, we have the sales to wrap it all. So it's a collective effort always. And we also have some interesting kind of happenings. I mean, sometimes we lose customers because they feel that, okay, Manage Engine doesn't have this particular feature. But what happens is when we roll out the feature, the customer, even if they sometimes use the competitor, they come back to us. That's the power of loyalty that we have built among the customer base.
Beautiful. And you even spoke about loyalty and brand, which kind of came back to give you a hand in times of crisis. So I obviously have to ask you, what is the secret sauce? I mean, I know Manage Engine is such a reputed and a recognized brand in the enterprise and large enterprise segment also. I mean, it's also not this brand that's very glitzy or flamboyant that does all of these marketing gimmicks or anything like that. On the contrary, it's even a conservative brand with organic brand values, and customer identify the brand for its engineering depth and stability and all of those kind of things. So tell us the secret sauce, Nirmal. Where is the brand getting it from?
Okay, so I mean, there's no secret actually. So it's okay. I'll explain. I mean, how it all happened. So we started doing business in the Middle East sometime in 2005. I mean, with very few customers. The first thing which we did was to find out partners who could add value at the local level. And once we started having partners in key markets, so we could add more customers. And by 2007, we found that we had a handful of customers and we could start active marketing at the local level. And which is when we started doing GITEX for the first time. That was in 2007. So we started small, even in GITEX, and that created a lot of impact. And then we continued being in GITEX and other events in the subsequent years. And by 2010, I think the brand had a solid footing in the market. But beyond 2010 is when actually the brand established even stronger. So it's a collective effort. I mean, on one end, the products were getting more stronger with more features. At the same time, we were adding more products along the way, and the marketing side, we were cranking up more activities, more content, etc. And of course, we also added a lot more partners, and the partners, because of the engagement that we had with them, they got better trained, so they could add more value to customers. So I think it is all a combination of all this, and I think it's no magic with all this. We also added a lot more customers. So from about say hundreds of customers in 2007, we had more than 1,000 customers by 2010, and then 2020 we have thousands of customers. So you can see it is a collective effort. Is very organic. It was not done in one day. So it is a very steady effort. The interesting thing is that we were consistent in whatever we are doing, right? From products, right, to marketing. For example, marketing. When you talk about marketing, we have been part of GITEX since 2007 without any break. So, and then not just GITEX, any event that we do, we tend to repeat year after year. And with respect to our relationship with the partners or anyone for that matter, like partners have been with us for more than a decade. Our PR agency they have been with us for a decade. Even the people who do the exhibition booth, they have been with us for a decade. So even the people who supply goods to us, I mean, the marketing material, they have been with us for a decade. And the hotel of a choice when it comes to events is Dubai Marina. So I mean, it's all pretty right. I mean, you can imagine. So this is something like part of the company's DNA as well, and we have replicated that in the region. So I think it's no magic that the brand has been established. So that's a story. Yeah, there's no secret.
Pretty good, pretty good. I mean, there is a quote that goes something like success isn't overnight. It is when every day you get a little bit better than the day you were before.
Correct.
So everything that you summed up regarding your brand sort of falls into place into this quote. And yes, brand is such an elusive thing. As you said, you know, your own vendors who have been working with you for over a decade now stuck with you. Your partner stuck with you. Your customers stuck with you, and somehow all of the essence of these seep into the brand in a way that we probably
Exactly.
won't even understand, but it all comes together in a big
Correct.
picture in a long run.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank
You're right. You're right about it. See, customers can actually see that. I mean, a lot of things customers can see, can
Right.
realize even if they're not within the system. So that's the interesting part.
Beautiful. We just spoke about how important is it to bring all factions inside a company together to work together to contribute to a sale. But I've been a sales agent myself, and I am now a marketer. So I know the rivalry between the sales and the marketing teams. And this rivalry is not really new. Like it's so popular that even books have been written on this subject, the war of sales and marketing.
Correct.
So, it's a classic case of sales claiming that the leads they got weren't good. It's all junk leads. No, we can't do anything with it. And marketing saying that no, we are bringing you leads, but you're not converting enough. You're not doing your job. And this just goes on. How do you
Correct.
handle that in your team, Nirmal? How have you done it for all these years?
Okay. So yeah, so I fully agree with you. So this is an ongoing tussle. Let me start with the small story. I think most of you know this. So I mean, there is this shoe company, and they wanted to expand into remote areas, and then they found okay, there is an island, and there are people. So why don't we just explore? So they sent two people. The first person went and came back, and he said, okay, so the island has full of tribals, and they don't seem to be wearing shoes. So I don't think there is any opportunity for us to sell our shoes. The second guy goes and he finds, see, the island is full of tribals, they don't wear shoes. So there's tremendous opportunity for our shoes. They're like same situation, right? So this, I mean, this is of course, and I would say as an extension of this, I would say the first guy is a sales guy, the second guy is a marketing. So it's a joke. I don't think any sales or marketing guy is so stupid. But then, see, but that story kind of explains the essence of, I mean, sales and marketing, how they view things differently. Let's say a given set of leads, the marketing team is going to assume that okay, a lot of them are going to convert into opportunities and then into customers. But sales they are going to be more circumspect. I mean, because they do the day-to-day job, they understand probably not everything is going to convert. They know, I mean, a percentage of it. So obviously, when the results come, I mean, the marketing team is going to be a bit unhappy, saying that okay, my expectations have not been met. But sales team probably may be happy. So there is a difference in expectation. I mean, definitely there is going to be conflict. I don't think this can be avoided. And in fact, I would say there is an amount of conflict is definitely needed. I mean, particularly when the objectives are same. So both sales and marketing have the same objective, which is to bring revenue. Why I say there has to be conflict, because see, when I see situations when there are two people, they have no conflict. I mean, only two things are possible. One listens to the other without any question, which is like a slavery kind of a situation. The other is both the parties are not having any passion towards what they're doing. Right? I mean, I think only in these two situations, I feel that there is not going to be any conflict between two entities, two people, whatever it is. So I would say an amount of conflict is good. I think it will be more productive for both the parties if there is conflict. But then the conflict has to be more, I would say, objective. We should not be subjective. I mean, people, the marketing team cannot say, okay, you know what, 60% of the leads should be converted. No, it cannot be. It may not be the truth. So there has to be a lot of measurement. I mean, that is where Manage Engine, in Manage Engine, we use Zoho's CRM as well as other marketing tools to track what is happening to the leads. And we also kind of give input to the marketing team as to what kind of leads can get converted, why, and why we lose. So we try to give as much as information to the marketing team. Sorry. And also, sometimes we also find some of the leads will never get converted, or the possibilities of conversion is very, very less. So I think all those information need to be fed, regularly to the marketing team. And in managing, it's a daily affair. So with that, I think the marketing team will have a better understanding about what is happening. Of course, they also, work very closely with the sales. Sometimes they also come as part of the sales activity to understand what is happening. So ultimately, they understand the reality. So that probably so much percentage of the leads will get converted, and so much will be, junk, and then so much need to get back to the lead nurturing program, right? So this is very, very, very important. And I would also say that it's not just a tool, because tool is something which is there to help, but we also need to have the proper process to update the tools. I know the CRM is there, but I've seen a lot of companies implementing CRM, but they don't use the CRM much. That defeats the purpose. Okay, so I think with this, people can, I would say, fight more meaningfully, because data is not going to lie. Maybe people might lie, but data isn't going to lie, right?
Beautiful. And definitely true, Nirmal, because we live in a big data world. So data is like everywhere.
Correct.
But to make good sense out of the data, we need the proper applications in place. If it is in the context of marketing, or if it is in the context of development, or whatever it is, there has to be a proper application that can make sense of all of these data. And only data can put an end to subjective opinions, as you said.
Correct.
And that reminds me of a quote which goes something like, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." So yeah, that kind
Nice
of
one. Yeah.
sets up the
Nice one.
conversation there. Yeah. And the way you spoke about salespeople and marketing people, you already seem to have created a nice persona for each of them, where the marketing folks look a little more rosy and dreamy and more optimistic, where the
Correct.
salespeople are very like practical and real worldly kind of people. So that's making me ask this question, where what do you think is a sense? I know that a sales team strength is completely dependent on the people that it has, the sales agents that
Correct.
it has empowered. And in your experience as a sales leader, what quality do you cherish the most in your agents? I know that a mix of smart work and hard work is necessary, but I know a good salesperson should have one a little bit more than the other, I would say. So if you were to lean a tiny bit towards one over the other, what would it be? Say smart work or
Okay. Oh yeah, this is pretty. We discuss this. Quite a lot whenever probably we have to recruit people, etc. So that is a pretty interesting question. So, if I have to choose someone, I would choose someone with a lot of smartness, but also who can work hard. Right? Why? Why so? It's because the smart people can identify opportunities better, but at the same time, it is equally important, particularly in, I would say, a larger cycle sale, to have the capacity to do the hard work so that you can convert them into sales, into money, right? So that's important. So I think both are important, and I have seen people with varying degrees of smartness and hardworking capacity being successful in sales. So I think it all ultimately boils down to the kind of personality someone has, and probably the kind of opportunity that the person has to hone up their skills, etc. So I really won't say that a super smart guy is going to be the successful one. No, I don't think that is correct. Additionally, I would say integrity is another important aspect when it comes to a salesperson. So what I mean by integrity is, I would hate salespeople who kind of tell lies, or something like bordering on lies just to make a sale, because that's the most stupid thing someone can do, because customers will figure out pretty soon, right? So let's say that I want to give a commitment saying that something will be available in 1 month, but whereas I know that it's not going to come in the next 6 months. I'm being a liar right in front of the customer. Customer will find out in 1 month's time, maybe 2 months' time, they will know. And additionally, I think the small world, because I have seen kind of unlikeliest people in very unlikeliest situations, right? So that's going to happen for everyone. Karma is going to catch up on you pretty soon if you do something wrong. So integrity is very, very important for a salesperson, and that brings in a lot of respect to him or her. That I think is important. And the other aspect which I think is important is empathy. What I mean by empathy is able to understand what the customer's pain point is. So essentially, when it comes to sales, we are solving some pain point of a customer. That is what we are doing. It's important to sometimes understand. Sometimes the existing product itself may be giving some problems, and then we need to be able to kind of understand the pain points of why they have a problem, and then try to address that if possible, or at least hear it out well, right? It's not like we can solve all the problem, but at least take the effort to hear. So that I think is pretty important. Empathy is very, very important. So when I interview people, that's one thing which I look at. I don't look at flashy salespeople. That's probably because the industry which I am in is also not flashy. It's a more, I would say, engineering-driven kind of industry. So I look for people who can understand. So it's a simple conversation where if the questions are understood, what questions I ask are understood, and then it's a meaningful conversation happen, that is a sign that the person has empathy. Of course, it's among so many other things that we look for. That's something I look for when I recruit people. And the other important thing, when it comes to hard work, I also use the word perseverance, right? So one example that I can quote when we talk about perseverance is, I have a friend of mine who is into field sales, and this person used to have, before the pandemic, several meetings each day. And this guy was, would randomly kind of break the rules while driving. He would jump the red light. He would park the car in wrong places, etc. And he would end up paying a lot of fines. I'm talking about over several years, right? Every time he used to pay a fine, he would say, "Okay, you know what, Nirmal, I'm going to somehow recover the money from the police." I thought it was crazy guy. He was going to recover the money from the police, of all the people. So he faced this issue for several years, and sometime in 2018, he said, "Nirmal, you know what? I have recovered all the money." I asked, "Okay, did they offer you some kind of amnesty, and then they returned back all the money that they got from you?" He said, "No, I just got a big order from them." So that's perseverance, right? So he took like 8 years to got the order, but then he got back all the money that he paid. That's fine.
That's brilliant, Nirmal. I asked you to pick between smart work and hard work, and you kind of created a situation between integrity and empathy with a mixture of smart work and hard work as well. Thank you so much, Nirmal. It's really such a pleasure talking to you. And viewers, if you have any questions, you can post your questions to the credentials that are posted below the comment. You can reach out to the Zoho Live team and post your questions. We will get back to you with answers. Thanks a lot for all your time. I will see you all in the next episode of Zoho Live. And you can also leave your comment on what you want us to talk about next. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.